The Church Militant and Other Poems. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Church Militant by George Herbert. Almighty Lord, who from thy glorious throne seest and rulest all things e'en as one, the smallest ant or atom knows thy power, known also to each minute of an hour. Much more do commonweals acknowledge thee, and wrap their policies in thy decree, complying with thy counsels, doing naught, which doth not meet with an eternal thought. But above all, thy church and spouse doth prove, not the decrees of power, but bands of love. Early didst thou arise to plant this vine, which might the more endear it to be thine. Spices come from the east, so did thy spouse. Trim as the light, sweet as the laden boughs of Noah's shady vine, chaste as the dove, prepared and fitted to receive thy love. All emblems which thy darling doth improve. The course was westward, that the sun might light as well our understanding as our sight. Where the ark did rest, there Abraham began to bring the other ark from Canaan. Moses pursued this, but King Solomon finished and fixed the old religion. When it grew loose, the Jews did hope in vain, by nailing Christ to fasten it again. But to the Gentiles he bore cross and all, rending with earthquakes the partition wall. Only whereas the ark in glory shone, now with the cross, as with a staff alone, religion like a pilgrim westward bent, knocking at all doors ever as she went. Yet as the sun, though forward be his flight, listens behind him, and allows some light till all depart, so went the church her way, letting, while one foot stepped, the other stay, among the eastern nations for a time, till both removed to the western clime. To Egypt first she came, where they did prove wonders of anger once, but now of love. The 10 Commandments there did flourish more than the 10 bitter plagues had done before. Holy Macarius and great Antony made Pharaoh Moses, changing the history. Goshen was darkness, Egypt full of lights. Nilus for monsters brought forth Israelites. Such power hath mighty baptism to produce, for things misshapen, things of highest use. How dear to me, O God, thy counsels are! Who may with thee compare? Religion thence fled into Greece, where arts gave her the highest place in all men's hearts. Learning was posed, philosophy was set, sophisters taken in a fisher's net. Plato and Aristotle were at a loss, and wheeled about again to spell Christ's cross. prayers chased syllogisms into their den, and ergo was transformed into Amen. Though Greece took horse as soon as Egypt did, and Rome as both, yet Egypt faster rid, and spent her period and prefixed time before the other two were in their prime. From Greece to Rome she went, subduing those who had subdued all the world for foes. The warrior his dear scars no more resounds, but seems to yield Christ hath the greater wounds. Wounds willingly endured to work his bliss, who by an ambush lost his paradise. The great heart stoops and taketh from the dust a sad repentance, not the spoils of lust, quitting his spear, lest it should pierce again him in his members, who for him was slain. The shepherd's hook grew to a sceptre here, giving new names and numbers to the year. But the empire dwelt in Greece, to comfort them who were cut short in Alexander's stem. In both of these prowess and arts did tame, and tune men's hearts against the gospel came, which using, and not fearing skill in the one, or strength in t'other, did erect her throne. Many a rent and struggling the empire knew, as dying things are wont, until it flew at length to Germany, still westward bending, and there the church's festival attending. That as before empire and arts made way, for no less harbingers would serve than they, so they might still and point us out the place where first the church should raise her downcast face. Strength levels grounds, art makes a garden there, then shows religion and makes all to bear. Spain in the empire shared with Germany, but England in the higher victory, giving the church a crown to keep her state, and not go less than she had done of late. Constantine's British line meant this of old, and did this mystery wrap up and fold within a sheet of paper, which was rent from time's great chronicle, and hither sent. Thus both the church and sun together ran unto the farthest old meridian. How dear to me, O God, thy counsels are! Who may with thee compare? Much about one and the same time and place, both where and when the church began her race, sin did set out of eastern Babylon, and travelled westward also. Journeying on, he chid the church away where'er he came, breaking her peace and tainting her good name. At first he got to Egypt, and did sow gardens of gods, which every year did grow fresh and fine deities. They were at great cost, who for a god clearly a sallet lost. Ah, what a thing is man devoid of grace, adoring garlic with an humble face, begging his food of that which he may eat, starving the while he worshippeth his meat. Who makes a root his god, how low is he, if God and man be severed infinitely? What wretchedness can give him any room, whose house is foul, while he adores his broom? None will believe this now, though money be in us the same transplanted foolery. Thus sin in Egypt sneaked for a while. His highest was an ox or crocodile, and such poor game. Thence he to Greece doth pass, and being craftier much than goodness was, he left behind him garrisons of sins, to make good that which every day he wins. Here sin took heart, and for a garden bed, rich shrines and oracles he purchased. He grew a gallant, and would needs foretell as well what should befall as what befell. Nay, he became a poet, and would serve his pills of sublimate in that conserve. The world came both with hands and purses full to this great lottery, and all would pull. But all was glorious cheating, brave deceit, where some poor truths were shuffled for a bait, to credit him, and so discredit those who after him should braver truths disclose. From Greece he went to Rome, and as before he was a god, now he's an emperor. Nero and others lodged him bravely there, put him in trust to rule the Roman sphere. Glory was his chief instrument of old. Pleasure succeeded straight when that grew cold, which soon was blown to such a mighty flame, that though our Saviour did destroy the game, disparking oracles and all their treasure, setting affliction to encounter pleasure, yet did a rogue, with hope of carnal joy, cheat the most subtile nations, who so coy, so trim as Greece and Egypt. Yet their hearts are given over for their curious arts to such Mahometan stupidities as the old heathen would deem prodigies. How dear to me, O God, thy counsels are! Who may with thee compare? Only the West and Rome do keep them free from this contagious infidelity. And this is all the rock whereof they boast, as Rome will one day find unto her cost. Traditions are accounts without our host. They who rely on them must reckon twice, when written truths shall censor man's device. Sin, being not able to extirpate quite the churches here, bravely resolved one night to be a churchman too, and wear a mitre. The old debauched ruffian would turn writer. I saw him in his study, where he sate, busy in controversies sprung of late. A gown and pen became him wondrous well. His grave aspect had more of heaven than hell, only there was a handsome picture by, to which he lent a corner of his eye. As sin in Greece a prophet was before, and in old Rome a mighty emperor, so now, being priest, he plainly did profess to make a jest of Christ's 3 offices. The rather since his scattered jugglings were united now in one, both time and sphere. From Egypt he took petty deities, from Greece oracular infallibility, and from old Rome the liberty of pleasure, by free dispensings of the Church's treasure. Then in memorial of his ancient throne, he did surname his palace Babylon. Yet that he might the better gain all nations, and make that name good by their transmigrations, from all these places, but at divers times, he took fine vizards to conceal his crimes. From Egypt anchorism and retiredness, learning from Greece, from old Rome stateliness. And blending these, he carried all men's eyes, while truth sat by, counting his victories, whereby he grew apace, and scorned to use such force as once did captivate the Jews, but did bewitch, and finally work each nation into a voluntary transmigration. All post to Rome, princes submit their necks, either to his public foot or private tricks. It did not fit his gravity to stir, nor his long journey, nor his gout and fur. Therefore he sent out able ministers, statesmen within, without doors cloisterers, who without spear or sword or other drum, them what was in their tongue did overcome, and having conquered did so strangely rule, that the whole world did seem but the Pope's mule. As new and old Rome did one empire twist, so both together are one Antichrist. Yet with 2 faces, as their Janus was, being in this their old cracked looking-glass. How dear to me, O God, thy counsels are! Who may with thee compare? Thus sin triumphs in western Babylon, yet not as sin, but as religion. Of his 2 thrones he made the latter best, and to defray his journey from the east. Old and new Babylon are to hell and night, as is the moon and sun to heaven and light. When the one did set, the other did take place, confronting equally the law and grace. They are hell's landmarks, Satan's double crest. They are sin's nipples, feeding the east and west. But as in vice the copy still exceeds the pattern, but not so in virtuous deeds. So, though sin made his latter seat the better, the latter church is to the first a debtor. The second temple could not reach the first, and the late Reformation never durst compare with ancient times and purer years, but in the Jews and us deserveth tears. Nay, it shall every year decrease and fade, till such a darkness do the world invade at Christ's last coming, as his first did find. Yet must there such proportions be assigned to these diminishings as is between the spacious world and jury to be seen. Religion stands on tiptoe in our land, ready to pass to the American strand. When height of malice and prodigious lusts, impudent sinning, witchcrafts and distrusts, the marks of future bane, shall fill our cup unto the brim and make our measure up. When Seine shall swallow Tiber and the Thames, by letting in them both pollute her streams, when Italy of us shall have her will, and all her calendar of sins fulfill, whereby one may foretell what sins next year shall both in France and England domineer. Then shall religion to America flee. They have their times of gospel e'en as we. My God, thou dost prepare for them a way, by carrying first their gold from them away. For gold and grace did never yet agree. Religion always sides with poverty. We think we rob them, but we think amiss. We are more poor, and they more rich, by this. Thou wilt revenge their quarrel, making grace to pay our debts, and leave our ancient place to go to them, while that which now their nation but lends to us shall be our desolation. Yet as the church shall thither westward fly, so sin shall trace and dog her instantly. They have their period also and set times, both for their virtuous actions and their crimes. And where of old the empire and the arts ushered the gospel ever in men's hearts, Spain hath done one, when arts perform the other, the church shall come, and sin the church shall smother. That when they have accomplished the round, and met in the east their first and ancient sound, judgment may meet them both and search them round. Thus do both lights, as well in church as sun, light one another and together run. Thus also sin and darkness follow still, the church and sun with all their power and skill. But as the sun still goes both west and east, so also did the church by going west still eastward go, because it drew more near to time and place where judgment shall appear. How dear to me, O God, thy counsels are! Who may with thee compare? L'Envoy. King of glory, King of peace, with the one make war to cease, with the other bless thy sheep, thee to love, in thee to sleep. Let not sin devour thy fold, bragging that thy blood is cold, that thy death is also dead, while his conquests daily spread, that thy flesh hath lost his food, and thy cross is common wood. Choke him, let him say no more, but reserve his breath in store, till thy conquest and his fall makes his size to use it all, and then bargain with the wind to discharge what is behind. Blessed be God alone, thrice blessed, three in one. End of poem. Read by Alan Mapstone in Oxford, England. The Holy Communion by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. O gracious Lord, how shall I know whether in these gifts thou be so as thou art everywhere? Or rather so as thou alone takest all ye lodging, leaving none for thy poor creature there? First I am sure whether bread stay, or whether bread do fly away, concerneth bread not me. But yet both thou and all thy train be there, to thy truth and my gain, concerneth me and thee. And if in coming to thy foes thou dost come first to them, yet shows the hast of thy good will. Or if that thou two stations makest, in bread and me the way thou takest is more but for me still. Then of this also I am sure, that thou didst all these pains endure, to abolish sin, not wheat. Creatures are good and have their place, sin only, which did all deface, thou drivest from his seat. I could believe an impanation at the rate of an incarnation, if thou hadst died for bread. But that which made my soul to die, my flesh and fleshly villainy, that also made thee dead. That flesh is there, mine eyes deny. And what should flesh but flesh descry the noblest sense of 5? If glorious bodies pass the sight, shall they be food and strength and might, even there where they deceive? Into my soul this cannot pass. Flesh, though exalted, keeps his grass, and cannot turn to soul. Bodies and minds are different spheres, nor can they change their bounds and meres, but keep a constant pole. This gift of all gifts is the best, thy flesh the least, yet I request. Thou took'st that pledge from me. Give me not that I had before, or give me that so I have more. My God, give me all thee. End of poem. Love by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Thou art too hard for me in love. There is no dealing with thee in that art. That is thy masterpiece, I see. When I contrive and plot to prove something that may be conquest on my part, thou still, O Lord, outstrippest me. Sometimes, when as I wash I say, and shrewdly as I think, Lord, wash my soul, more spotted than my flesh can be, but then there comes into my way thy ancient baptism, which when I was foul and knew it not, yet cleansed me. I took a time when thou didst sleep, great waves of trouble combating my breast. I thought it brave to praise thee then, Yet then I found that thou didst creep into my heart with joy, giving more rest than flesh did lend thee back again. Let me but once the conquest have upon ye matter, 'twill thy conquest prove. If thou subdue mortality, thou dost no more than doth ye grave. Whereas if I o'ercome thee and thy love, hell, death, and devil come short of me. End of poem. Trinity Sunday by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. He that is one is none. Two reacheth thee in some degree. Nature and grace with glory may attain thy face. Steel and a flint strike fire. Wit and desire never to thee aspire, except life catch and hold those fast. That which belief did not confess in ye first thief, his fall can tell, from heaven through earth to hell. Let two of those alone to them that fall, who God and saints and angels loose at last. He that has one has all. End of poem. Euen-song by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The day is spent, and hath his will on me. I and ye sun have run our races. I went ye slower, yet more paces, for I decay, not he. Lord, make my loss up and set me free, that I, who cannot now by day look on his daring brightness, may shine then more bright than he. If thou defer this light, then shadow me, least that the night, earth's gloomy shade, fouling her nest, my earth invade, as if shades knew not thee. But thou art light and darkness both together. If that be dark we cannot see, the sun is darker than a tree, and thou more dark than either. Yet thou art not so dark, since I know this, but that my darkness may touch thine, and hope that may teach it to shine, since light thy darkness is. Oh, let my soul, whose keys I must deliver into the hands of senseless dreams, which know not thee, suck in thy beams, and wake with thee for ever. End of poem. The Knell by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The bell doth toll. Lord, help thy servant, whose perplexed soul doth wishly look on either hand, and sometimes offers, sometimes makes a stand, struggling on the hook. Now is the season, now ye great combat of our flesh and reason, O help my God. See they break in, disbanded humours, sorrows, troops of sin, each with his rod. Lord, make thy blood convert and colour all the other flood and streams of grief, that they may be juleps and cordials when we call on thee for some relief. End of poem. Perseverance by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. My God, ye poor expressions of my love, which warm these lines and serve them up to thee, are so as for the present I did move, or rather as thou movest me. But what shall issue, whether these my words shall help another, but my judgment be, as a burst fowling piece doth save ye birds, but kill the man, is sealed with thee. For who can tell, though thou hast died to win, and wed my soul in glorious paradise, whither my many crimes and use of sin may yet forbid the banes and bliss. Only my soul hangs on thy promises, with face and hands clinging unto thy breast, clinging and crying, crying without cease. Thou art my rock, thou art my rest. End of poem. The Convert by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. If ever tears did flow from eyes, if ever voice was hoarse with cries, if ever heart was sore with sighs, let now my eyes, my voice, my heart strive each to play their part. My eyes, from whence these tears did spring, where treacherous sirens used to sing, shall flow no more, until they bring a deluge on my sensual flame, and wash away my shame. My voice, that oft with foolish lays, with vows and rants and senseless praise, frail beauty's charms to heaven did raise, henceforth shall only pierce the skies in penitential cries. My heart, that gave fond thoughts their food, till now averse to all that's good, the temple where an idol stood, henceforth in sacred flame shall burn, and be that idol's urn. End of poem. Psalm 3 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. How are my foes increased, Lord? Many are they that rise against me, saying, for my soul no help in God there is. But thou, O Lord, art still the shield of my deliverance. Thou art my glory, Lord, and he that doth my head advance. I cried unto the Lord. He heard me from his holy hill. I laid me down and slept, I waked, for God sustained me still. Aided by him, I will not fear 10,000 enemies, nor all the people round about that can against me rise. Arise, O Lord, and rescue me. Save me, my God, from thrall. 'Tis thou upon the cheekbones smitest mine adversaries all, and thou hast broke the ungodly's teeth. Salvation unto thee belongs, O Lord. Thy blessing shall upon thy people be. End of poem. Psalm 4 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Lord, hear me when I call on thee, Lord of my righteousness. O thou that hast enlarged me when I was in distress. Have mercy on me, Lord, and hear the prayer that I frame. How long will ye vain men convert my glory into shame? How long will ye seek after lies and vanity approve, but know the Lord himself doth choose the righteous man to love? The Lord will hearken unto me when I his grace implore. O learn to stand in awe of him, and sin not any more. Within your chamber try your hearts. Offer to God on high the sacrifice of righteousness, and on his grace rely. Many there are that say, O who will show us good? But Lord, thy countenance's cheering light do thou to us afford. For that, O Lord, with perfect joy shall more replenish me than worldlings joyed with all their store of corn and wine can be. Therefore will I lie down in peace and take my restful sleep, for thy protection, Lord, alone shall me in safety keep. End of poem. Psalm 6 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Rebuke me not in wrath, O Lord, nor in thine anger chasten me. O pity me, for I, O Lord, am nothing but infirmity. O heal me, for my bones are vexed. My soul is troubled very sore. But, Lord, how long so much perplexed? Shall I in vain thy grace implore? Return, O God, and rescue me. My soul for thy great mercy save. For who in death remember thee, or who shall praise thee in the grave? With groaning I am wearied. All night I make my couch to swim, and water with salt tears my bed. My sight with sorrow waxeth dim. My beauty wears and doth decay, because of all mine enemies. But now from me depart away, all ye that work iniquities. For God himself hath heard my cry, the Lord vouchsafes to weigh my tears. Yea, he my prayer from on high, and humble supplication hears. And now my foes the Lord will blame, that erst so sorely vexed me, and put them all to utter shame, and to confusion suddenly. Glory, honour, power, and praise to the most glorious Trinity, as at the first beginning was, is now, and to eternity. End of poem. Psalm 7 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Save me, my Lord, my God, because I put my trust in Thee. From all that persecute my life, O Lord, deliver me. Lest like a lion swollen with rage, he do devour my soul, and piecemeal rent it while there's none his malice to control. If I have done this thing, O Lord, if I so guilty be, if I have ill rewarded him that was at peace with me, yea, have not oft delivered him that was my causeless foe, then let mine enemy prevail unto mine overthrow. Let him pursue and take my soul, yea, let him to the clay tread down my life, and in the dust my slaughtered honour lay. Arise in wrath, O Lord, advance against my foes' disdain. Wake and confirm that judgment now which thou didst foreordain. So shall the people round about resort to give thee praise. For their sakes, Lord, return on high, and high thy glory raise. The Lord shall judge the people all. O God, consider me according to my righteousness and mine integrity. The wicked malice, Lord, confound, but just me ever guide. Thou art that righteous God by whom the hearts and reins are tried. God is my shield, who doth preserve those that in heart are right. He judgeth both the good and those that do his justice slight. Unless the wicked turn again, the Lord will whet his sword. His bow is bent, his quiver is with shafts of vengeance stored. The fatal instruments of death in that prepared lie. His arrows are ordained against him that persecuteth me. Behold, the wicked travelleth with his iniquity. Exploits of mischief he conceives, but shall bring forth a lie. The wicked digged and a pit for others' ruin wrought, but in the pit which he hath made shall he himself be caught. To his own head his wickedness shall be returned home, and on his own accursed pate his cruelty shall come. But I, for all his righteousness, the Lord will magnify, and ever praise the glorious name of him that is on high. End of poem. Psalm 1 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Blessed is the man that never would in counsels of the ungodly share, nor hath in way of sinners stood, nor sitten in the scorner's chair. But in God's law sets his delight, and makes that law alone to be his meditation day and night. He shall be like an happy tree, which, planted by the waters, shall with timely fruit still loaden stand. His leaf shall never fade, and all shall prosper that he takes in hand. The wicked are not so, but they are like the chaff which from the face of earth is driven by winds away, and finds no sure abiding place. Therefore shall not the wicked be able to stand the judge's doom, nor in the safe society of good men shall the wicked come. For God himself vouchsafes to know the way that righteous men have gone, and those ways which the wicked go shall utterly be overthrown. End of poem. Psalm 2 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Why are the heathen swelled with rage? The people vain exploits devise. The kings and potentates of earth, combined in one great faction, rise, and taking counsels gainst the Lord, and gainst his Christ presume to say, Let us in sunder break their bonds, and from us cast their cords away. But he that sits in heaven shall laugh, the Lord himself shall them deride. Then shall he speak to them in wrath, and in sore anger vex their pride. But I am God, and seated King on Sion, his most holy hill. I will declare the Lord's decree, nor can I hide his sacred will. He said to me, Thou art my son. This day I have begotten thee. Make thy request, and I will grant. The heathen shall thy portion be. Thou shalt possess earth's farthest bounds, and there an awful sceptre sway, whose power shall dash and break them all, like vessels made of brittle clay. Now therefore, O ye kings, be wise, be learned, ye that judge the earth. Serve our great God in fear, rejoice, but tremble in your highest mirth. O kiss the Son, lest he be wroth, and straight ye perish from the way. When once his anger burns, thrice blessed are all that make the sun their stay. End of poem. Psalm 5 by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Lord, to my words incline thine ear, my meditation weigh. My King, my God, vouchsafe to hear my cry to thee, I pray. Thou in the morn shalt hear my moan, for in the morn will I direct my prayers to thy throne, and thither lift mine eye. Thou art a God whose purity cannot in sins delight. No evil Lord shall dwell with thee, nor fools stand in thy sight. Thou hatest those that unjustly do, thou slayest the men that lie. The bloody man, the false one too, shall be abhorred by thee. But in the abundance of thy grace will I to thee draw near, and toward thy most holy place will worship thee in fear. Lord, lead me in thy righteousness, because of all my foes, and to my dim and sinful eyes thy perfect way disclose. For wickedness their insides are, their mouths no truth retain, their throat an open sepulchre, their flattering tongues do feign. Destroy them, Lord, and by their own bad counsels let them fall. In height of their transgression, O Lord, reject them all. Because against thy majesty they vainly have rebelled, but let all those that trust in thee with perfect joy be filled. Yea, shout for joy for evermore, protected still by thee. Let them that do thy name adore, in that still joyful be. For God doth righteous men esteem, and them for ever bless. His favour shall encompass them, a shield in their distress. End of poem. Sonnets, sent by George Herbert to his mother as a New Year's gift from Cambridge. By George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. My God, where is that ancient heat towards thee, wherewith whole shoals of martyrs once did burn, besides their other flames? Doth poetry, where Venus's livery, only serve her turn? Why are not sonnets made of thee, and lays upon thine altar burnt? Cannot thy love heighten a spirit to sound out thy praise as well as any she? Cannot thy dove outstrip their Cupid easily in flight? Or, since thy ways are deep and still the same, will not a verse run smooth that bears thy name? Why doth that fire, which by thy power and might each breast does feel, no braver fuel choose than that which one day worms may chance refuse? Sure, Lord, there is enough in thee to dry oceans of ink, for as the deluge did cover the earth, so doth thy majesty. Each cloud distills thy praise, and doth forbid poets to turn it to another use. Roses and lilies speak thee, and to make a pair of cheeks of them is thy abuse. Why should I women's eyes for crystal take? Such poor invention burns in their low mind, whose fire is wild and doth not upward go to praise, and on thee, Lord, some ink bestow. Open the bones, and you shall nothing find in the best face but filth. When, Lord, in thee the beauty lies in the discovery. End of poem. Inscription in the Parsonage, Bemerton, by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. To my successor. If thou chance for to find a new house to thy mind, and built without thy cost, be good to the poor as God gives thee store, and then my labour's not lost. Another version. If thou dost find an house built to thy mind without thy cost, serve thou the more God and the poor, my labour is not lost. End of poem. On Lord Danvers by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Sacred marble safely keep his dust who under thee must sleep, until the graves again restore their dead, and time shall be no more. Meanwhile, if he which all things wears do ruin thee, or if the tears are shed for him dissolve thy frame, thou art requited. For his fame, his virtues, and his worth shall be another monument for thee. End of poem. On Sir John Danvers by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. And by the same George Herbert, orator of the University at Cambridge, pinned on the curtains of the picture of the old Sir John Danvers, who was both a handsome and a good man. Pass not by, search and you may find a treasure worth your stay. What makes a Danvers would you find? In a fair body, a fair mind. Sir John Danvers' earthly part here is copied out by art, but his heavenly and divine in his progeny doth shine. Had he only brought them forth, know that much had been his worth. There's no monument to a son, read him there, and I have done. End of poem. A Paradox by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. That the sick are in a better case than the whole. You who admire yourselves because you neither groan nor weep, and think it contrary to nature's laws to want 1 ounce of sleep, your strong belief acquits yourself, and gives ye sick all grief. Your state to ours is contrary, that makes you think us poor. So Blackmoors think us foul, and we are quit with them and more. Nothing can see and judge of things but mediocrity. The sick are in themselves a state which health hath naught to do. How know you that our tears proceed from woe, and not from better fate? Since that mirth hath her waters also, and desired bath. How know you yet ye sighs we send from want of breath proceed? Not from excess, and therefore we do spend that which we do not need. So trembling may as well show inward warblings as decay. Cease ye to judge calamities by outward form and show, but view yourselves and inward turn your eyes, then you shall fully know that your estate is, of ye two, ye far more desperate. You always fear to feel those smarts which we but sometimes prove. Each little comfort much affects our hearts, none but gross joys you move. Why then confess your fears in number more, your joys are less. Then for yourselves not us embrace, plaints to bad fortune due. For though you visit us and plaint our case, we doubt much whether you come to our bed to comfort us, or to be comforted. End of poem. To Ye Queene of Bohemia by George Herbert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Bright soul, of whom if any country known worthy had been, thou hadst not lost thine own. No earth can be thy jointure, for the sun and stars alone unto ye pitch do run, and pace of thy swift virtues, only they are thy dominion. Those that rule in clay stick fast therein, but thy transcendent soul doth for 2 clods of earth 10 spheres control, and those stars shot from heaven lose their light, yet thy brave beams, excluded from their right, maintain their lustre still, and shining clear, turn waterish Holland to a crystalline sphere. Methinks in that Dutch optic I do see thy curious virtues much more visibly. There is thy best throne, for afflictions are a foil to set of worth and make it rare. Through yet black Tiffany thy virtues shine fairer and richer. Now we know what's thine and what is fortune's. Thou hast singled out sorrows and griefs, to fight with them about at their own weapons, without pomp or state, to second thee against their cunning hate. Oh, what a poor thing 'tis to be a queen, when sceptres, state, attendants are ye screen betwixt us and the people, when as glory lies round about us to help out ye story, when all things pull and hail, yet they may bring a slow behaviour to the style of king. When sense is made by comments, but yet face, whose native beauty needs not dress or lace to serve it forth, and being stripped of all, is self-sufficient to be the thrall of 1,000 hearts. Yet face doth figure thee, and show thy undivided majesty, which misery cannot untwist, but rather adds to the union, as lights do gather splendour from darkness. So close sits ye crown about thy temples, yet ye furious frown of opposition cannot place thee where thou shalt not be a queen and conquer there. Yet hast thou more dominions. God doth give children for kingdoms to thee. They shall live to conquer new ones, and shall share ye frame of the universe, like as ye winds, and name the world anew. Ye sun shall never rise, but it shall spy some of their victories. Their hand shall clip ye eagle's wings, and chase those ravening harpies which peck at thy face, at once to hell, without abating while at purgatory, their enchanted isle and Paris garden. Then let their perfume and Spanish scents, wisely laid up, presume to deal with brimstone, yet untamed stench, whose fire, like their malice, naught can quench. But joys are stored for thee. Thou shalt return, laden with comforts thence, where now to mourn is thy chief government, to manage woe, to curb some rebel tears which fain would flow, making a head and spring against thy reason. This thy empire yet, till better season call thee from out of yet surrounded land, that habitable sea and brinish strand, thy tears not needing, for yet hand divine, which mingles water with thy Rhenish wine, will powerful joys to thee, but dregs to those, and meet their taste, who are thy bitter foes. L'Envoy. Shine on, majestic soul, abide like David's tree planted beside the Flemish rivers. In the end thy fruit shall with their drops contend. Great God will surely dry those tears which now yet moist land to thee bears. Then shall thy glory, fresh as flowers in water kept, maugre the powers of devil, Jesuit, and Spain, from Holland sail into the main. Thence wheeling on it compass shall this our great sublunary ball, and with that ring thy fame shall wed eternity into one bed. End of poem, read by Alan Mapstone. End of The Church Militant and Other Poems by George Herbert.